There are companies worth tens of billions of dollars that have never charged their users a single dollar. Apps that hundreds of millions of people use every day for free, with no subscription fee, no purchase required, and no obvious price attached to anything they offer. From the outside, the economics seem impossible. If nobody is paying, where does the money come from? The answer to that question reveals one of the most important structural shifts in the history of commerce. A shift that changed what a business is, what a product is, and what it means to be a customer. This is the story of why free apps are worth billions, and how the absence of a price tag became one of the most powerful business strategies ever deployed at scale. To understand why free apps generate enormous value, you need to start by questioning an assumption most people carry without examining it. The assumption that a business makes money by charging the people who use its product. This assumption is accurate for most of the economy. A restaurant charges diners. A hardware store charges customers. A software company sells licenses. The person who receives the value pays for it. But this model has a limitation. The price creates friction. Every time a potential customer is asked to pay, some of them decide the product is not worth it and walk away. The higher the price, the more people walk away. And the people who walk away represent both lost revenue and lost scale. Free removes that friction entirely. When an app costs nothing to download and nothing to use, the only barrier to adoption is whether the product is useful or interesting enough to try. This produces user bases of a size that paid products almost never reach. And user bases of that size are, it turns out, worth an enormous amount of money. Not because those users pay the app, but because of what their presence, attention, and behavior represent to other parties who are willing to pay significantly to access them. The first and most widely understood revenue model for free apps is advertising. When an app has a large and engaged user base, it has something advertisers need: access to a specific audience at a specific moment. An app used by millions of people during their morning commute, or during their lunch break, or late at night before sleep, has detailed knowledge of when its users are present, what they are doing, and in many cases who they are. Advertisers pay to place messages in front of that audience during those moments. The app collects that advertising revenue without ever charging the user directly. The user is not the customer in this arrangement. The user is the audience. The advertiser is the customer. The value of that advertising relationship depends on how much the app knows about its users and how precisely it can match advertising messages to the right people. A generic app with little user data can sell advertising at low rates because it cannot tell advertisers much about who is seeing their ads. An app with detailed behavioral and demographic data can charge significantly more because it can deliver ads to exactly the right people at exactly the right time. This is why free apps that collect extensive user data, usage patterns, location history, content preferences, social connections, are worth more than free apps that collect very little. The data is not a byproduct of the app. In financial terms, it is often the primary asset. The second major revenue model for free apps is the freemium structure. The app is free to use at a basic level, but certain features, capabilities, or enhancements require payment. The free version serves as a sustained demonstration of the product's value, a permanent trial that gives users enough of the experience to understand what they are getting, but withholds enough that a segment of users will eventually decide the paid version is worth it. The conversion from free to paid does not need to happen quickly or at a high rate, because the cost of serving a free user is very low in a digital product. Even a small percentage of a very large user base converting to paid can generate substantial revenue. The freemium model is particularly effective because the free users are not purely a cost. They are also a marketing channel. When free users share the app, recommend it to others, or simply use it visibly in social contexts, they expand the user base without any advertising spend from the company. The larger the free user base, the larger the pool of potential paid conversions, and the broader the organic distribution of the product. Free users generate revenue indirectly by growing the audience that paid users and advertisers are drawn to. A third model is the marketplace or transaction fee structure, where the app facilitates exchanges between users and takes a percentage of the value transferred. The app itself is free to use, but every completed transaction generates a small fee for the platform. At low transaction volumes, this model generates modest revenue. But at the scale that free apps can reach, millions of users completing millions of transactions, the aggregate fee revenue becomes very large. The platform takes nothing upfront and charges nothing for access. It only collects when value is actually exchanged, which aligns its incentives with user activity and makes participation feel low risk to both sides. These models are not mutually exclusive, and the most valuable free apps often combine several of them simultaneously. An app might serve advertising to free users, offer premium subscriptions to users who want an enhanced experience, and facilitate transactions between users while taking a percentage of each one. Each revenue stream draws from the same underlying asset, the user base, and each one scales as the user base grows. The free product creates the audience creates the revenue, and the revenue is diversified across multiple mechanisms so that no single source is critical to the overall financial picture. The reason this model works is that it exploits a fundamental asymmetry between the cost of acquiring users and the value of accumulating them. In a digital product, adding one more user costs almost nothing. The infrastructure to serve that user already exists. The product does not wear out from being used by more people. There is no inventory to restock, no physical space to expand, no proportional increase in operating cost as the user base grows. This means that the cost of growing from 1 million users to 10 million users is a fraction of what it would cost to grow a physical business by the same factor. And because free removes the conversion barrier entirely, growth can happen faster and at lower cost than any paid product could achieve. At scale, the value of a free app is not calculated by multiplying users by a price per user. It is calculated by the total revenue potential of the audience those users represent, across advertising, subscriptions, transactions, data licensing, and any other monetization mechanism the platform can apply. This is why companies pay billions of dollars to acquire free apps with large user bases, even when those apps are currently generating modest revenue. The acquisition price reflects not current earnings, but the future revenue potential of the audience already assembled. The users are the asset being purchased. What the free app model illustrates about the digital economy more broadly is that the traditional relationship between price, product, and customer has been fundamentally restructured. In the physical economy, value flows in one direction. The customer pays the business for what the business provides. In the platform economy, value flows in multiple directions simultaneously. Users receive a product for free and provide attention, data, and behavior in return. Advertisers pay for access to that attention. Subscribers pay for enhanced access to the product. Transaction participants pay a fee for the infrastructure the platform provides. The business sits at the center of all of these flows, collecting from each one. The app is free because free is not a discount. It is a strategy. It is the mechanism through which the audience is built, and the audience is what everything else is built on top of. Remove the price, attract the users, and the revenue finds its way in through every other opening available. That is not a coincidence. It is the architecture.